You are listening to the Awakened Radio Network. Visit our website where you can chat with our host at awakenedradio.net. If you'd like to listen to us on the go, visit tunein.com. Download their free app and then look for Awakened Radio. You can take us everywhere. Tell all your friends how to listen to the Awakened Radio Network. Awakened Radio is a people-powered radio station. We are occupying the airwaves with the message of personal empowerment, encouraging our listeners to create consciously, to be aware, to be honest, and to heal those areas of our lives that are really starting to bug us. Join our host at awakenedradio.net, where you will find discussions on energy work, meditation, politics, UFOs, aliens, and everything in between. Awakenedradio.net, the people-powered information radio station. Did you know that you can host your own broadcast with the Awakened Radio Network? Join us at awakenedradio.net. Look up at the top where it says Services. Click on Be a Host. Check there for information on how to share your message with our global listening audience. You can also add Awakened Radio to Skype and contact our station manager, or email the station at awakenedradio@gmail.com. Find out how easy, fun, and awesome it is to be part of the Awakened Radio Network family.
Welcome to your Unfolding Senses. I'm your host, Ragozzine, and on this show, we'll be exploring everything intuition. Let's get started. Hello, welcome to your Unfolding Senses. I'm Rob Ragozzine. As you heard, this show is all about allowing yourself the opportunity to explore your full intuitive sensory capabilities. It's about listening to intuition so that you'll be able to feel connected to yourself, your purpose, and your life in a deeper and more meaningful way. I want to say thank you for Donna, Susan, and Chris for excellent shows today. And stay tuned for the show after mine, which is hosted by Christina, called The Aurora Connection. And last week she talked about us all having a message to live through and teach us in our life. Now you can join us in the chat room at awakenedradio.net and click on the live chat tab, or call us through Skype by clicking on Awakened Radio or calling into 334-649-7204. Since today is Valentine's Day, we'll be talking about love, the shadow, relationships, and of course, intuition. If you have any questions about relationships or have some positive learnings from past or present relationships that you'd like to share with us, give us a call and we'll talk about those. I'll get to some of mine later in the show, but please do feel free to call in and post about relationships or any signs or symbols or recurring numbers or dreams that you might be having, and we'll talk about those. And if you do have something to say about relationships, definitely feel free to call in and join us in the show. And before we get too deep, if you're so inclined, any and all donations are greatly appreciated. We're all here helping you, volunteering for no cost to you. So if you've enjoyed my show or past shows from the other hosts, please find it in your heart to click on the donate button at the top of all the screens at awakenedradio.net. Now, I'd like to encourage you, if you're still feeling jittery from the day or feeling stressed, to get up and shake off a little bit of that energy, relax, calm down. This is all about tuning into yourself, so you want to be thinking about doing that, connecting inward, letting go of the outward for now, and we'll settle in and do a short meditation in a few seconds. But I'll give you some time to get up and shake, 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 and let go of the jitters and the stress, and find a comfortable spot and sit down or lie down, and we'll settle in and do a short meditation to help us enter into a space more conducive to intuition. So we feel more connected to our bodies, minds, hearts, spirits. Now making sure you're lying or sitting comfortably and closing your eyes, slowly taking a few gentle breaths, releasing any stress, and gently connecting with a sense of inner knowing, inner calm, inner tranquility. And allow this feeling to fill your body. You might see it as light following the path of your veins. You might just feel it like honey rolling through your body. Allow the sensation to fill you. It might be a bright light. It might be a different color. Whatever it is, allow you to feel the sensation and to fill you up. Believe, feel, and know that your answers are within. Spending a few moments here to connect to your body and your senses. You might even ask for a message, maybe a question that you have. Allow whatever comes into your perception to come, perhaps a symbol, word, or phrase, perhaps an answer to a question that you have. But if nothing comes, that's okay. Just gently breathing and allowing. Breathing and allowing. Allowing yourself a few moments here. And when you're ready, you can begin to reconnect to your body and to begin to breathe normally, slowly bringing your awareness back to the room and gently opening your eyes. Now, I've been doing the intuitive challenges from week to week on my website and on air, as you know. So this week, I have a card up on my desk. It's a tarot card, and you'll have to intuit what's on the card. And I'm telling you right now, as a hint, it's not from the Rider-Waite deck, so you'll have a hard time guessing anyway. So connect with all of your senses and feel into what shapes are on the card, what symbols, what colors, what does it look like. Imagine, if you will, that you were opening a box and there is this card. And what does it look like to you? Are you surprised by it? Who's on the card? What's on the card? And I'll have another one after the break, but post your intuition, your intuitive hits in the chat room, and we'll see who can come up with the closest representation of the card. And again, this is not guessing. Last week, we had Justin, who's a host of, forget his show, I'm not good at that either, I guess. So he talks about health topics, and he was able to intuit what the secret object was, which was a yellow crayon, within about a minute of the show starting, so he was really connected. And Susan Kern in the chat room is guessing Hierophant, and no, it's not even from the Rider-Waite deck, the most common deck of cards, so it's not about guessing the card name, it's intuiting what the card, what images are on the card, and not necessarily the name of the card. So, good luck with that, and pay attention to any smells that you might have from the card. For instance, is someone cooking in the card? Or is someone dancing? Is there music? Is there water? Is there land? What's happening in the card? Is there a big scene? Are there lots of people? Try to connect with the imagery and see where it takes you and post your intuitive suggestions and hits. Now this week, I'm in Connecticut. It snowed here. We didn't expect to get as much as we did, and I was trying to connect to my intuition and figure out how much we'd get beforehand, which is always fun. And there was two parts of me. One felt that it was going to be a bigger storm than they were talking about. They were at first saying 10 to 12 inches. We eventually, where I am, got close to 36. And an image that I kept getting was of someone bringing their hand down to like their knee. So I thought that meant something close to, well, not a lot of snow, maybe a little bit of snow, and not a lot to worry about. But still there was an internal sensation of connecting with, well, this seems bigger than it is. So internally, somehow I knew we'd get more. I'm not really into shoveling, but hey, got to do it. But over time, I gradually took the first symbol to mean just relax, settle down, don't worry about it. So sometimes really just have to sit with the imagery and the sensations that you're getting and accept one message over the other, or figure out what it all means. And this is where the shadow might come into play here. It's about what you're willing to accept, what you're not willing to accept. So you really have to be open to the messages that you're receiving, because, well, you're getting these messages, and what are you doing with them? Are you saying, no, I don't want to pay attention to that? So it's about integrating the messages that you are receiving. And we have a new person in the chat room. Katie, hi. And Susan mentioned she's got about 2 feet of snow. Wow. We got about, I guess, 3. So if you have any questions about relationships this week, dreams, especially dreams related to relationships, please do call in. If you need the number, that's 334-649-7204. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. Now this week I asked for a dream about compassion and Valentine's Day and how I could best support myself better, or how we all could better support one another. And knowing, of course, that it starts with you or me as an individual. So I basically said, can I have a dream about this? What do I need to be aware of, take in, or give out to foster greater love and compassion in my own life, as well as, the people listening. So we have a hint coming from the chat room. And it's a lantern type thing, a long staff or rod, stream rainbow, or multicolored shape. And there is a sort of vase or goblet in the card, so I guess that's pretty close. And again, this is not the Rider-Waite deck, so the names of the cards really don't apply. It's a different deck entirely. So it's about really connecting with the imagery on the card rather than coming up with the names of the cards. And this card does have a figure holding a sort of jug. So Susan has said 2 goblets, so that's pretty close. And there's a figure in a stream with the jug held up high, and there's a fish in the water next to this character. So if you've seen any of this kind of imagery, you've done a pretty good job. And the figure is armored and is a knight. And the water is sort of greenish and bluish. And there's land in the background and kind of a blue sky. So if you've seen any of that imagery, give yourself a pat on the back and congratulate yourself. If not, that's okay. Just record what you did see and see how it applies to the card that I'm talking about, and we'll do another one a little later on. Now back to my dream. So I'm back at school, and there's loud music playing, and I guess I'm in there's, at least at my school, there were double rooms and triple rooms. So I'm in a triple room with two guys, and there's another room where loud music's coming from. I don't know how old I am. I feel like I should be there, and for some reason, I guess I've missed taking a credit, so I have to be there, but I don't know why. Um, so I'm the one that goes and leaves the room and knocks on the door of the other room where the music is playing, because it's, I guess, late at night and we're going to sleep. So I knock on the door, and there's other men in there, and they're playing music, watching TV, and then I leave, and for some reason they said, I guess they said that, yeah, okay, we'll lower the music, and everything was okay. But I felt, I guess, humbled in the dream, or humiliated, just because they were wondering why I was still there. So I'm looking at this dream from a perspective of self-relationship, and looking at, since the movies and the music are in there, looking at how that is soothing and really enjoyable to me, and not being, I guess, embarrassed by my choice of music, which is, I like jazz, I like rock, I like everything. So it's really paying attention to the music and the movies, and seeing that I get enjoyment out of them. That's how I build a more compassionate space for myself, or at least I can build a more compassionate space for myself by allowing more of that into my life. And I've been listening to a lot of satellite radio, which is really fun. I don't have to hear a lot of commercials. So anyway, more on that later. Let's talk more about what intuition is, because people have been asking me this week, what are you talking about? And it's not a loud voice necessarily that you hear in the sky that says, take a right turn, though you might see something or hear something like that. I remember driving down the road one day, and there was a sign that was there for a long time that said, stay in the right lane. So I stayed in the right lane. Or you might hear a voice that says, go left. So billboards might have a particular message. Anything can have a message. Just paying attention to the world around you. And if it says stay in the right lane, maybe there's something at the next exit that's worthy of going to. Who knows? So it can be a very simple, unobtrusive, quiet, and often subtle hints that might not be loud, but they could be staring at you right in the face. And of course, we've talked about this before. It could be a feeling. So you might feel something, like have a gut reaction. You might feel sensations. You might smell cookies from when you were a child, and that might remind you to have compassion for yourself, for instance. Or people will see imagery, or you'll have a dream, or you will hear voices. It's different for everyone. Some people expect to always see imagery, but it might not always be images. It might be sounds. It might be a feeling. It's really connecting to your body and paying attention to the images, sensations, and feelings and emotions that it's bringing to you. So, referring back to the card that we just were working on, how did you feel when you were looking at, trying to feel into or intuit what was on the card? Did any imagery come into your mind? Did you see clouds? Did words come into your mind? Did colors and shapes? And start to log this and journal it. David Lloyd on Spiritual Calling talks about journaling all the time. So get your journal out and start to journal this stuff and really pay attention to what you're sensing and feeling. As you go through the process of doing that, you'll begin to deepen your connection to your senses and become more familiar with how it communicates with you and not someone else. It's about really developing a connection to yourself and making a space for this in your life and home is really important. It's about following your nose and getting out of the books, letting the books go for now, and maybe studying by yourself or with a group or a teacher if you need to, but really finding a way to depend more and more on yourself and integrating the symbols into your life. And Donna mentioned she had a dream about being on Sirius. That's a really cool dream, and you can look at that on many, many levels, and especially being right there. So that's pretty cool. So I mentioned talking about the shadow, and what is the shadow? Well, it's parts of ourselves that we've hidden away or repressed, and it could be both good and bad stuff. So if you're a youngin in school and you're really good at math and your friends aren't, and you might say, well, to keep up with them and stay in that crowd, I'll pretend that I'm not so good and get bad grades on my tests so I can fit in better. Sometimes you stuff qualities and parts of yourself away so that you can fit in better with the people that you're with. And that's a really simple example. And as we're growing up as kids, when someone says, don't cry, well then, especially boys, they'll stop crying and stuff that emotion down. So it's the emotions, the feelings, anything that you need to do to fit in, that's stuffing it into the shadow. A lot of people call it a big bag that you drag it behind you. So all this stuff is stuffed in there, and we don't feel it. We become numb to it, and sometimes the bag rips and bad things spill out, and you ruin a relationship by saying the wrong thing to someone. So it's paying attention to this and really being conscious, more conscious of your life, and recognizing when you're blocking something and when you're expressing something. The dreams that you have are trying to find a way for something to be expressed, and that's one way to pay attention to the shadow in your life. Start paying attention to the dreams and see what they're trying to bring to your attention. And Susan mentioned she's been dreaming like crazy this week with no recollection about what happened. But if you can connect to the feelings or simple symbols, that's okay. You can really do a lot of work. Last couple of weeks I was talking about one dream that I really only remembered the very end of it, and I still got quite a bit out of it. And Donna mentions there was an accident and she cried, so that's also good. It's not stuffing that emotion down. It's feeling the emotion when you're there to the best of your ability. It doesn't mean you have to stay there and cry, but it's to recognize the feeling and be with it in that moment. To be in the moment, to feel whatever it is in the moment that you're feeling, and to be with the feeling. Now, as we live our lives a lot very unconsciously, and it can be very hurtful in relationships to say things to people when you don't put it through a filter. Well, I'm not saying to filter what you say. I'm saying to be more conscious of what you're saying. I was looking at something that Sharon Salzberg had talked about at one time, and I've seen it attributed to different people and beliefs. And it's asking 3 questions before you bring something up or talk about something. And these questions are, 1, is this really an important thing to talk about? 2, can I do this kindly? And 3, when would be the best time and place to bring this up? And we have about 5 minutes left till break, so I'll talk more about this when we come back from break. But for now, let those sit with you. And if you do have a relationship or a dream question and you'd like to call in, please feel free to call in when we come back from break. I have a quote that I'd like to share. It's from Ariel Ford, and she's saying, "There are so many people out there thinking, oh, I can't have a serious relationship until I heal all my baggage. And yes, working on your baggage is a good thing. But the truth is, when you're with somebody who loves you and is your safe place to land and has your back, you can have a rapid ascent into healing." So she's talking about not necessarily worrying about the baggage. It's important having a space for it, but also being willing to enter into a relationship and not putting it aside and waiting till you're fully healed and you've read the 600 books on your shelf. So please join us in the chat room at awakenedradio.net and click on the live chat tab to talk about this, or call us at Awakened Radio in Skype or 334-649-7204. We'll have another challenge after the break, and if you have any questions about past week shows like archetypes, or any questions about your dreams or anything I've talked about so far tonight, please feel free to call in and talk about those things. Here's another quote from Ram Dass before we go to break, and it's, "Our whole spiritual transformation brings us to the point where we realize that in our own being we are enough." So again, another quote talking really about being fine with ourselves. And something else that I'd like to talk about really is the shadow side of Valentine's Day, which is often loneliness. And it's okay to feel lonely, and really being in the moment and saying, well, how can I better connect to this feeling instead of pushing it away? And so building shadow, you can attempt to heal that and move away from that feeling. And this got about 30 seconds left, so I'll say stay tuned for Christina after my show. Her show, The Aurora Connection, will be coming up after my show ends in half an hour. Thanks for listening so far. Be back after the break.
Thank you for listening to the Awakened Radio Network. Visit our website at awakenedradio.net. Our broadcasts are brought to you in part by thebarefootguru.com, where you can discover the power of thrival in your life. Author, teacher, coach, and radio host Donna Devane invites you to co-create your dreams. Awakened Radio Network is sponsored in part by Evolutionary Spirituality Coaching.com, where self-discovery is co-created with loving guidance. Author, coach, teacher, and radio host Donna Devane invites you to move into a new experience of self. Visit Evolutionary Spirituality Coaching.com today. At Awakened Radio Network, we bring you the how-to you've been asking about. Our hosts are top-notch teachers, authors, and coaches who love sharing their messages with you, our listeners. If you have a message you'd like to share on Awakened Radio, visit our website at awakenedradio.net. Look for Services tab, then click on Be a Host. Add Awakened Radio to Skype and type Donna a message. Thank you for listening to the Awakened Radio Network. Visit our website at awakenedradio.net, where you can communicate with our host through our forums, our live chat room, and our call-in information so that you can join us on the air is always on our live chat page. Find out about our host, about how to host your own show, how to be a partner for success with us, to sponsor a show, or to advertise with us. Thank you so much for taking part in the Awakened Radio Network at awakenedradio.net.
Welcome to your Unfolding Senses. I'm your host, Rob Ragozzine, and on this show, we'll be exploring everything intuition. Let's get started. Okay, we're back, and I've chosen another card, and again, this isn't the popular Rider-Waite deck for the Intuitive Challenge, so names really won't help you. It's really about connecting to the imagery and the sensation of the card. So pay attention to whether you get words or phrases or symbols, colors, feelings. Pay attention to everything. And as we're talking about relationships tonight, I have another quote from Mary Manning Morrissey. She says, "We take a risk when we open our hearts because the truth is, if we open our hearts, we will get hurt. You can't open your heart and not have some hurt because you're in a human experience. Even if it's the love of your life, and you have many wonderful, deepening, growing, powerful years together, it's a human experience, and that person will pass over. Love takes courage. Be courageous." So, we're talking about relationships and the shadow, and how the shadow can block us from really being in full expression, whether it's keeping us numb or oblivious. Can be really powerful. And I had a really powerful waking dream. I don't know, I guess it would have to be 12, 15 years ago, maybe more. And it was a Christmas, kind of somewhere around Christmas, and it was late at night, and there was a man who was probably drunk, and he was falling down in the street. I didn't see him, but I guess my neighbors did. And he fell on my car and broke off my rear view mirror. And here I was getting ready to go to sleep, and then the police come knocking on my door and tell me about this. So that was, to me, since everything in your dream is you, it's really paying attention to my numbness, my obliviousness, and really get to connect more with the shadow and pay attention to the feelings and the sensations rather than saying, well, that's okay. Being okay with whatever is there. And that's how I got involved in a lot of men's work and inner growth work. But again, it's really being willing to pay attention to that and look at that as a message, whether it's a good or bad message, and really welcome it and embrace it as your message. I don't see any intuitive hits in the chat, so I'll continue to talk about I guess it's big for the Quakers and the Buddhists. It's 3 questions to ask before you say something in a relationship. So it's really trying to bring kindness into a conversation. Number 1 is this really an important thing to talk about? 2, can I do it kindly? And 3, when would be the best time and place to bring it up? So really being compassionate and concerned about bringing something up that in a way that can help heal the relationship rather than to bring it to an end or to do it some harm unconsciously. So it's really trying to look at your relationship in a conscious way, in an aware way, And I've been getting a lot of questions about, since I do a lot of numerology work, how to be more compatible with someone. And there's two things that I notice I have to ask right away is, one, are you in a relationship with this person at all? And two, are you talking? Well, if you're not in a relationship, I guess you're not talking, but you might be. So how are you in relationship with this person that you're seeking compatibility with? First, you have to be compatible with yourself, and that's where the loneliness and the numbness comes into play. You have to really be okay with that, and maybe that takes sitting down on a daily basis in meditation and saying, I can get through this moment. I can get through this moment. And not pushing away the loneliness, but finding a space for it in your heart and seeing what it's trying to bring to you. What's the message? Well, part of the message is probably that you want to connect with someone on an emotional level, but you have to first connect with yourself, and that's where your relationship can help you grow with yourself, can help you grow with others. And then you can really start to pay more attention to your senses and your intuition, and it all can grow. And it's just that you've really blocked the connection to the inner you. So what to do? So I have a bunch of questions that might help that I ask myself and others when I'm reading for them. So one of the big ones is, what have you rejected? What don't you want to pay attention to? And I talked about integrating your thoughts and feelings and emotions earlier in the show and last week too. So to pay attention to everything that's coming to you. If people are telling you that you're aloof, and how are you supposed to get into a better relationship with people when they think you're cold and closed off and not interested in relationship with them? And part of this can also be dealing with their projection. So if it's only one person that's saying you're aloof versus a crowd of people, it might just be that this person is projecting that out onto you. So pay attention to that. And if you're in a relationship with someone that says this, ask them, if you can, in a conscious, aware way, to say, what are you projecting? And again, go back to those questions. How can you do that kindly? And say, in a kind way, do you think that you might also be projecting something onto me? And are you willing to work on this with me? And in the chat room, Aurora mentions she sees a full moon in water, and I'll say there's no water in this card and no moon. And I guess it's a karma card. No, it's not a karma card. I'm not even sure what that is, but anyway, it's more important to pay attention to the images on the card than trying to identify the deck that it's from. So, back, and Donna mentioned sunshine, dancing, and flowers, and there's no sunshine, no dancing, and no flowers. So back to the shadow. How can we connect to it? So again, looking to what have you shut off or shut out? And basically that's another look at what have you rejected? What aren't you feeling? And to really sit with that and to be okay with the feeling in the moment. I guess a good test for this is being okay with being lonely on Valentine's Day. Being okay with having that tender spot in your heart and asking what it needs. Making time for asking for what your heart needs. So sitting down and doing something creative to connect with that emotion, whether it's making a mosaic or a mandala or artwork, or maybe singing or poetry. Whatever that you're good at, that could be an especially wonderful time to connect with that creativity and really create something from your heart to see what's the end result. What can you create out of that, and what's the message from that final creation? And Susan mentions she sees a man head down on a table and a small window behind him. And that's very, very close. This card, it's from another deck, but it is the Nine of Swords, and in the Rider-Waite deck, that's very close to the imagery of the card. So Susan wins once again. Ding, ding, ding. I don't know what you get, but be happy. You've connected to your intuition. Susan gets the prize, yes. She says, yep, feel good about it. It's remembering what you connected to. And Aurora says, swords. Yes, it's the Nine of Swords. And swords are hanging from the ceiling. And in the Rider-Waite deck, the card is black. It's like the window is closed. And the man is sitting in bed with his hand over his eyes like he can't stand the feeling, whatever the feeling is. It could be loneliness. In this card, there's sort of a man crouched under the swords. But again, the deck isn't necessarily important. So look to as we talked about archetypes, look to the roles that you're playing. What roles are you playing? Are you the caring nurturer, or are you the rebel that wants to bring everything down on everyone's head and ask? There's positive and negative to both roles. Always know that. What have you passed over? Where have you become robotic? What are you addicted to? Which is always a good question. So I refer back to my dream where I saw the image of the stove and the frozen food box in the oven, and the box wasn't opened and it was just smoking. So looking at the simple foods and really just junk food, but not wanting to spend the time, I guess addicted to laziness for me, not wanting to spend the time cooking, and then I got into getting a juicer and a super blender and really enjoying the process. What are you ignoring? And there's more and more, and I'll post these in my forum. You can go to the forum here at Awakened Radio and see some of my past shows and post questions, and I'll have these questions, which can be very helpful for looking at the shadow. Should you decide to do that, and it's really a helpful process that can help to shift your life in a new direction if you're willing to make that shift. So, to recap, the shadow really keeps you in fear or numb or oblivious, out of your emotions, kind of shackled, and there's lots of energy. Takes lots of energy to hold all your stuff back. You don't want people to discover what's wrong with you. And I read a quote that said, don't worry about that. Try to enter in a relationship and be the best you that you can be anyway. It might take forever to heal all of your wounds. See the real value in you. And I guess the big question is, well, how do I start? How do I start doing this? It seems so daunting. I guess compassion, being vulnerable, being open, having a curiosity to say, well, why is that about me? And that desire to look within. And I was trying to relate the loneliness to a good story today, especially for Valentine's Day. And I ran across the story of Penelope and Odysseus, And talk about lonely people. Penelope went through 108 suitors telling them all no. I'm waiting for my husband to come back and save me, for her life to come back together. She was willing to wait for all the time that it took for Odysseus to make his way back to her, and he had gifts that he turned down in order to go back to his wife. So that's definitely a good story to look about challenges and the willingness to pursue your dreams for a relationship that's important to you, and really a commitment to your partner. So, any questions? We still have plenty of time. You can call in by adding radio to Skype or clicking on awakenedradio.net, coming to the live chat, or calling the 334-649-7204 number. And if you don't have a great internet connection, that's probably the way to go. For me, another event that kind of relates to the shadow and just being okay and in the moment was when I was moving in to my home. I had a narrow stairway to move down, and I didn't realize it, and I ordered a queen bed. I wanted to order a king-size bed, but for some reason I didn't, and they couldn't fit it down the stairs. And since I didn't realize that I guess it was a floor model, they wouldn't take it back, but I just sent it back and said, I don't need it, I can't use it, and they kept calling me and emailing me saying, someone's got to take this bed, where are we going to leave it? And I really didn't have the time or the energy to deal with getting this bed, and they were trying to say, well, you could sell it. What am I going to get for it? So I let it go, and eventually they did wind up sending me a check somehow, miraculously. So I let myself feel the feelings and say there was nothing that I can really do in that moment, because I dealt with managers and upper managers and nobody would budge. So eventually I just said, well, you have it. You take the bed. I don't care what you do with it. You can burn it for all I care. And eventually they did send me a check, and that problem resolved itself. So again, being in the moment and saying, at least I'm fine, or I'm okay in this moment, and being okay from moment to moment to moment, and find a way to externalize the energy that's stuck. If you're angry, you might want to go throw rocks in the ocean and see them as bits of your anger, for instance, or going back to something that's creative and constructive, singing or dancing, or bringing something helpful for you into the world. Hopefully it more helpful to bring something that's physical representation of the feelings that you want to connect to. So if you want to connect to joy, create something that's related to that. And of course, that is very important. So not talking about having your head in the sand, but seeing the world as it is, but holding vision for better and being at ease. And being willing to offer a helping hand if you see somebody else struggling. And here's a nice idea from Bourdieu. He says, life itself teaches dramatically and powerfully through events centered around crisis, loss, and death. When such events are not embraced, when the dark, the demonic, and the destructive are not integrated, the conscious mind partitions itself from total consciousness and creates a reality reflecting only that which is acceptable to one's awareness. That which is unacceptable simply disappears from awareness, though it certainly does not go away. So really, being willing to pay attention to what you don't want to feel. So again, making a date with yourself, for instance, on Valentine's Day, if you're single, and really connecting to the loneliness if that's what you feel, and being okay with that. Make a special dinner for yourself, sitting down, maybe making some tea or your favorite beverage, and really enjoying the meal and being in the moment of simply enjoying the meal and your own company and making space to listen to your heart and asking again, what do I need to feel at ease now? And maybe your heart gives you a symbol. Maybe you turn on the TV and there's somebody skydiving, and that pops into your mind as, oh, wow, I've been thinking about doing that for years. So maybe calling up some friends and doing that. And Susan mentioned spend the evening with your awakened family. So yes, finding people that you can relate to, and even if it's like us on the radio, listening to us and warming your heart from afar. So the goal of working with your shadow is to present a quick, simple fix. It's really to allow you to develop a deeper and more awareness, conscious awareness of who you are, being able to listen to yourself, the messages from your heart. It's about valuing your interests and talents and desires. So I mentioned that I like music, and I definitely have been getting some symbols around that and had been setting up my home for more music, but I hadn't been doing it in my car necessarily. I was just listening to the same channel that I listen to all the time, and they play the same music, mostly hard metal with some rock, so that was getting boring and dull. So now I get to listen to more of the music that I like to listen to, and it's soothing and relaxing to me. But for you, that might be that you want to go out and garden or do something like that. It's about really paying attention to the messages that are coming to you. So if you're getting the thoughts in your head that say, well, I should be gardening, well, first of all, let go of the shoulds. Connect more to what the gardening or the dancing or the singing brings to you. Well, gardening brings me joy, so go do that. That way you're not blocking the joy from being expressed in your life. And then you can be connected to the other emotions, sort of like putting a top on a pot of boiling water. It just makes it boil harder. It doesn't make it go away. So it's about letting the steam and the pressure out and giving yourself space for full expression of that which needs to be expressed. And that's what the dreams are really bringing you. That's what the intuitive hits are bringing you, is something that needs to be expressed in your life a lot of times. So yes, it could be about an upcoming event, but more likely it's something that's closely related to you. It's about owning your own power and, again, connecting to you, the real you, so you can take steps forward in your life. And, again, you also tend to see the parts of yourself that are connected to the shadow in other people, so that's when you're projecting and pointing a finger. And so your partner's a big one, as are family members and, of course, friends. So with your partner, you might be able to enter into an agreement, at least, that says we won't point fingers and we'll have honest conversations and real conversations about when we have issues with one another. And you won't engage in gossip. That's a big shadow aspect about behind each other's backs, or with friends, or close relationships. And that has been, and is a big one for myself. When I'm in a relationship, that's an agreement that I like to have, is say that your partner goes off to a girl's night out or boys' night out, whatever the case may be, or goes on a business trip, and they come and they meet someone that you're both have a friendship with or some sort of acquaintanceship is not to spread gossip, but if you're asked, say, well, he'd love to talk to you or she'd love to talk to you, why don't you email or call him or her, and they'd love to have a conversation with you. So really, you're cutting the gossip short and you're welcoming in a real conversation. And that might not be interested necessarily in that, but at least you're lessening the gossip in your own life and you're making space for more real relationships. And our shadow is, of course, made up of our secrets, so why create more? And especially ones we want to hide from others. We're coming close to the end of the show, so I'll leave you with some of my ways to contact me. First is Intuition by Rob on Twitter, where you can follow my tweets about what I plan on talking about in the next coming week. And you can find me in the forum right here on awakenedradio.net, and I'll have post recaps of past shows, and you can post questions, and you can go into the Divine Shopping Cart area here at awakenedradio.net and order a reading from me. And I'll have a website to go to soon, but I don't have one for this show yet. I do have Numbers by Rob if you're interested in numerology, where you can go, and I post there regularly about numerology. I want to thank everyone for making their intuitive guesses, intuitive hits tonight. I know it's not always easy, so thank you for joining us here, and since we have about 3 minutes, stay tuned for Christina, but I'll leave you with some ideas about what you might be able to do with your partner to work with the shadow. So you might meditate together, you might practice Reiki, energy healing together and fall asleep in each other's arms. You might do some of these intuitive challenges together. Whatever you can do to deepen your relationship and really challenge each other to take the next steps forward really helps to heal a lot of shadow issues. And another good aspect, another good method might be to hold vision for one another. So to see positive outcomes for the goals and aspirations of your partner, and to really feel and believe that they'll accomplish what they're trying to accomplish for them. Of course, they have to do it for themselves too, but to really see it having been done and accomplished as well, and to have that and to hold that, that really can help to deepen your relationship together. And the intuitive challenges can bring some fun, definitely bring some fun into your relationship. Again, thanks for joining me tonight. If you have any questions about what I've talked about, feel free to contact me here in the forums or on Twitter, or you can search for Your Unfolding Senses on Facebook, and feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Again, stay tuned for Christina's show. I've got about 30 seconds left, so thanks for joining me tonight.